Hey everyone, welcome to the English Speaking Show. I'm Ella.
And I'm Jake. Really glad you are here with us today. Ella, I started a new job recently, and the mornings are killing me. I used to start at 10. Now I'm still getting used to the 7 o'clock alarm.
Mate, did you hear what you just said?
That the mornings are killing me?
No, you said I used to start at 10, and then I'm getting used to the 7 o'clock alarm. Two completely different expressions, both containing the words used to.
They sound identical to me.
They look identical. They mean completely different things. And there's a third one, be used to, that sits right between them.
3 expressions, same words, 3 different meanings.
And by the end of today, all 3 will be completely clear. You'll know exactly which one to use and when. And there's one surprise that most learners never expect.
Already nervous. Let's go.
It starts with the most straightforward one. So, used to, always the past. Always about something that has changed.
Like, I used to start at 10. That was my old job. I don't start at 10 anymore.
Exactly. Used to signals that something was true before, but it is not true now. Whatever comes after used to belongs to the past.
And it works for habits, things you did regularly.
I used to walk to work every day. She used to eat meat, but now she is vegetarian. We used to meet every Friday for lunch.
Things you did repeatedly, then stopped.
And it also works for states, things that were simply true about a person or a place.
Like, I used to live in London, or he used to have a lot of patience.
Or there used to be a park here. Now it is a shopping center. The park existed, then it stopped existing. Used to covers both repeated habits and past states.
So used to is not just for things you did, it's for things that were true, full stop.
If it's over, if it belongs to the past and has changed, used to is the right choice.
Now, the grammar. Used to is always followed by a base verb.
Always. I used to smoke. She used to drive. They used to work together. Base verb every time.
I used to smoking. Wrong.
Wrong. And I used to drove. Wrong. Used to takes the base form. Smoke, drive, work. No ing, no ed.
And questions and negatives. This is the part that surprised me when I first learned it.
In questions and negatives with did or didn't, used to becomes used to without the ed.
Did you used to smoke? Not did you used to smoke.
Because did is already carrying the past tense, adding ed to used as well puts past tense in the sentence twice. Did handles it. The ed on used disappears.
I always write did you used to with the ed. It looks completely right.
It looks right because used to always has ed in positive sentences, but after did or didn't, the ed goes. Did you use to live here? I didn't use to like coffee. Used to, no ed.
And pronunciation does not help. Both versions sound identical in natural speech.
Both sound like usta, which is why this error appears even in advanced learners and even in native speakers sometimes.
What about the present? Can I say I used to go to the gym as a present habit?
Never. Used to has no present form. For present habits, I usually go to the gym. I normally go. Never I used to go. That sounds like a question or negative error.
So used to is past only, no exceptions.
No exceptions. Now, would. Because I hear people say things like, my father would tell stories every night. Is that the same as used to?
I always thought would was only for conditionals, like I would go if I could.
That is one use of would, yes. But would also describes repeated past actions, things you did regularly in the past. My father would tell stories every night. Every summer, we would go to the seaside. In those days, we would spend all day outside.
It sounds more nostalgic somehow, more like you are really in the memory.
That is exactly the feeling. Would for past habits sounds warmer and more evocative, like you are looking back and living in it.
But it does not always work the same way as used to.
No, and this is the critical difference. Would can only be used for repeated actions, things you did. It cannot be used for past states, things that were simply true.
So, she used to have long hair, correct?
Correct. Having long hair is a state. It was simply true about her.
She would have long hair, wrong?
Wrong. Would cannot describe past states. He used to own a car. There used to be a cafe here. I used to know this area well. Would cannot replace any of these.
So the test is this something they did repeatedly or something that was simply true about them?
If they did it repeatedly, both work. If it was simply true, used to only.
I want to tell you about a mistake I made recently with used to in front of a colleague.
Tell me.
I was describing my old job to someone at work. I wanted to say I had a habit of working late, and I said, I used to work late every night at my last company.
Use to without the D in a positive sentence.
Exactly. She looked slightly confused, and I realized immediately, positive sentences always have the D. I used to work late, not I used to work late.
The D disappears only after did or didn't. In a positive statement, always used to with the D.
And I knew the rule, I just dropped the D without thinking because it sounds identical when you say it out loud.
Used to. Both versions sound exactly the same in natural speech. The difference only appears in writing, and most people never notice until someone looks at them slightly strangely.
Which is exactly what she did.
Now, can we see used to in a real spoken situation?
Yes. Role play. You have been at this company for 3 years. I have just joined. We are having coffee in my first week. You start.
Ready? So, how are you finding it so far?
Honestly, the mornings are the hardest part. I used to start at 10 at my last job. This is a big adjustment.
It gets easier. I used to struggle with early starts too when I first joined.
Did you used to work from home before this?
I did, yes. 3 days a week. I used to love that flexibility.
I worked from home full-time at my last place. The office culture here is very different from what I used to know.
It takes time. Did you used to work in a large team before?
I did, yes, but we rarely met in person. I used to have most of my conversations on a screen.
That explains a lot. It really does get easier. Good. Let's look at what happened there.
I used to start at 10. Past habit. No longer true. Correct.
I used to struggle. Past habit no longer struggles. Correct.
Did you used to work from home? Question form. Used to without the D after did. Correct.
I used to love that flexibility. Past habit and past feeling. Correct.
Different from what I used to know. Past state. I no longer know that environment. Correct.
Did you used to work in a large team? Question form again. Used to without the D. Correct.
And nothing in that conversation crossed into be used to or get used to. Those are completely separate expressions.
Completely separate. And they are where the real confusion lives because they look almost identical to used to and mean something completely different. And one of them has a grammar rule that surprises almost everyone the first time they see it. be used to looks like used to. Completely different meaning.
Used to is the past. Be used to is now.
Now or any point in time. Be used to means something is familiar, normal, no longer strange.
I'm used to the early mornings now. It is normal for me.
She is used to dealing with difficult clients. He was used to working long hours. They are not used to eating so late.
So only be changes. Am, is, are, was, were. The used to part stays the same.
Always. And what comes after be used to, this is the rule that surprises everyone.
Because I said I am used to work from home in the role play, and that was wrong.
Wrong. After be used to, always a gerund or a noun, never the base verb.
I am used to working from home, not I am used to work from home.
I am used to working, gerund, correct. I am used to the noise, noun, correct. I am used to work, never correct.
But there is a to there. Why isn't it followed by a verb?
Because that to is a preposition, not part of an infinitive.
A preposition takes a noun or a gerund.
Never a base verb. So the to in used to and the to in be used to are completely different.
In used to is part of the infinitive. I used to work.
In be used to is a preposition. I am used to working.
Same letters, two different jobs.
Once you see that, the rule stays permanent.
Now, get used to. Is that the same as be used to?
Related, but different. Be used to means you have arrived. Something is already familiar and normal.
Get used to means you are on the way there.
Exactly. Get used to is the process of adapting. Something was once strange or difficult, and over time it is becoming more normal.
I am used to the commute. Arrived. Normal now.
I'm getting used to the commute. Still adapting. Still on the journey.
Same situation, two completely different stages.
And get used to works in any tense. Just change get.
I'm getting used to it right now, in progress.
I got used to it after a few months. The process is complete.
You will get used to it. It will happen in the future.
I can't get used to it. Struggling to adapt. It is not getting easier.
I'll never get used to working nights. I have tried, and it never becomes normal.
Both completely natural, both very common in adult spoken English, and both rarely taught explicitly.
And the grammar, same as be used to?
Same, after get used to, always a gerund or a noun, never the base verb.
I got used to working late. I got used to the noise.
Never, I got used to work late. The to is a preposition. Same rule.
Now all three together, because I think seeing them side by side is what locks this in.
All three. Same topic, 3 stages.
I used to work from home full-time. Past, no longer true.
I am not used to commuting yet. Present state. Still unfamiliar.
I am getting used to the commute. In progress, still adapting.
3 sentences. 3 stages of the same change.
Used to, before. Be used to, arrived. Get used to, the journey between.
And one more thing before we test this, because a lot of learners feel uncertain about something and they really should not.
Would for past habits.
Yes, many learners avoid saying, "My grandmother would cook every Sunday," because would sounds conditional to them.
I feel that uncertainty every time. I second-guess myself.
Here is the truth. Would for past actions is completely natural and completely correct. My grandmother would cook every Sunday. In those days, we would walk everywhere. He would always bring something when he visited.
Not conditional at all.
Not conditional at all. Warm, evocative, perfectly correct. The only restriction, past states. She would have long hair, wrong. She would cook every Sunday, perfectly right.
So for past actions, would works. Stop avoiding it.
Stop avoiding it. Now, I want to share something that happened when I moved to a new city.
Tell me.
The first months were really hard. The commute, the pace, the noise. I called my mother constantly.
And?
After 6 months, things felt more normal. She asked how I was settling in, and I said, I am getting used to it.
But you had already adapted.
Fully. I should have said, I am used to it. I have arrived. It is normal now. But I said, getting used to, still on the journey.
And your mother thought you were still struggling.
She said, oh, good, so it is still difficult? I had to explain that, no, I was completely fine. One word changed the whole meaning.
Getting versus used to. Still traveling versus already arrived.
Now, can we hear all three in a real conversation?
Yes, role play. I moved to a new city 6 months ago. I'm calling you my mother. You answer.
Ready? Hello, love. How are you?
Really good, actually. The city is starting to feel like home.
I am so glad. You used to call me every other day in the beginning.
I know. I used to find everything overwhelming. The noise, the pace, everything.
And now?
Now I'm used to the noise. I barely notice it anymore.
What about the commute? You used to hate it.
I still find it long, but I'm getting used to it. I listen to podcasts now.
See, your father would always say, give anything 3 months and it starts to feel normal.
He was right. I'll never get used to the cold, though. That one I cannot seem to adapt to.
Nobody ever does. Good. Key moments.
You used to call me every other day. Past habit. Used to. Correct.
I used to find everything overwhelming. Past state. Used to. Correct.
I am used to the noise. Present state. Familiar now. Arrived. Be used to. The noise is a noun. Correct.
I'm getting used to the commute. Present process. Still adapting. Get used to. Gerund. Getting. Correct.
Your father would always say, past habit with would, an action repeated in the past, not conditional. Correct.
I'll never get used to the cold. Strong, ongoing resistance. Never get used to. Natural and common.
3 expressions, 1 conversation, each one doing a completely different job.
And this connects to something from the do episode. The word to does different jobs depending on where it appears. In used to, part of an infinitive. In be used to and get used to, a preposition. Same letters, completely different jobs. The link to that episode is in the description.
Now, let's test whether I actually have all 3 straight.
Situation 1. Which is correct? A. She used to working late. B. She used to work late. C. She is used to working late.
The answer, B and C, are both correct, but they mean completely different things.
A. Used to working. Wrong. Used to always takes a base verb. Working is a gerund. Never correct here.
B. She used to work late. Correct. Past habit. She no longer works late.
C. She is used to working late. Also correct. Working late is normal and familiar for her now.
Same words, 2 correct answers, completely different meanings. The form tells you everything.
Situation 2. Did you used to smoke or did you use to smoke?
Did you used to smoke without the D?
Did is already carrying the past tense. Adding D to used creates double past marking. The D disappears after did and didn't.
In positive sentences, always used to with the D. I used to smoke. After did, always used to without the D. Did you used to smoke?
And both versions sound identical when spoken. Used to. The difference only appears in writing.
And if this episode is helping you, please subscribe. New episodes every week. Real English for real life.
Situation 5. I am used to blank in big cities. A. Live. B. Living. C. Lived.
The answer is B, living.
After be used to, always a gerund or a noun, never a base verb, never a past form.
I am used to living, gerund, correct. I am used to the noise, noun, correct. I am used to live, never correct.
Situation 4. And this one surprises most people. My grandfather would tell stories every night. This is A. Conditional. He would tell stories if something happened. B. Wrong, should be used to. C. Perfectly correct. Would for past habits.
The answer is C, perfectly correct. Would for repeated past actions is completely natural and completely correct in English, not conditional at all.
My grandfather would tell stories every night means he did it regularly. It was his habit. Warm, evocative, perfectly right.
The only restriction, would, cannot describe past states. She would have long hair, wrong. She would tell stories every night, perfectly correct.
If you have been avoiding would for past habits, stop avoiding it. It is completely correct.
Situation 5. Which sentence is wrong? A. I used to live in Paris. B. I used to live in Paris. C. I am getting used to Paris.
The answer is B. I used to live in Paris. Wrong. Used to has no present form. I used to live in Paris looks like a present habit, but it is a structural error.
For present habits, I usually live, I normally live, never, I used to live. A. I used to live in Paris, correct. Past state, no longer true.
C. I am getting used to Paris, correct. Present process, still adapting. B. I used to live in Paris, always wrong as a positive present statement.
Now, let's bring everything together.
3 expressions. Let's lock them in. Used to, always the past. Something that was true or happened regularly but has changed. I used to live in London. She used to work late. There used to be a park here.
Always followed by a base verb. And in questions and negatives with did, use used to without the d.
Be used to, something that is familiar and normal now. I am used to the noise. She is used to early starts. He was used to long hours.
Always followed by a gerund or a noun, never a base verb, because the to is a preposition, not part of an infinitive.
Get used to, the process of becoming accustomed. Still adapting, still on the journey. I am getting used to the commute. She got used to it after a few months. I'll never get used to the cold.
Also, always followed by a gerund or a noun. Same preposition, same rule.
The central rule,
Used to is about the past, what you did before but stopped. Be used to is about now, what feels normal to you. Get used to is about the journey, becoming comfortable with something new.
before, now, the journey between.
And would for past habits, completely correct, completely natural. Stop second-guessing it, just not for past states.
Now your comment challenge. Write 3 sentences in the comments. 1 with each expression, something real from your own life.
Mine, I used to commute 2 hours every day. I got used to working from home during that period. Now I am used to a much shorter journey.
Mine, I used to find public speaking terrifying. I got used to it slowly over years of practice. Now I'm completely used to presenting to large groups.
Write yours. 3 sentences, 3 stages of one change in your life.
We read every single one.
And if this episode helped, please subscribe. New episodes every week. Real English for real life. Thank you for being here today. See you in the next one.
Take care, everyone.